So we're live. So what's up, everybody? So today we're starting on to our live series of our fourth live series for DSC Malaysia. It's to talk about our journey recap. So basically, how has our 1 year of being a DSC lead has been. So without further ado, let's move on to our speakers. So my name is Zhen. I'll be your moderator for today. And then we have Daffy as well from DSC UTP. And then we have Amrita from DSC UM. And then we also have the Alavi from DSC APU. So we also have Weifan from DSC Sunway. Yeah, so let's start the stream today. So yeah, So how's life, guys? So like knowing it has been exactly not 1 year technically, but 1 year of our progress as DSC leads. How do you guys feel about like passing on to the next DSC? Like Amrita, maybe you can share some light on this.
Yeah, sure. I think it has been really an emotional feeling, like getting this, looking at how far we've come in this less than a year, and thinking of how we've created something really beneficial for students out there. And now that we have started something really good to connect students and provide them with the right skills. And now we're just handing it over to another new, fresh batch who are just as passionate and as motivated about this as we were when we started. Yeah, so I think it's really an emotional and very happy moment for us. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree. Like knowing that we are like the pioneer of like DSC, like we really don't have like a standard to like how we want to expect what this club is going to be. So I guess it's really, really nice. And what about you, Alavi? What do you think about the
like definitely what Amrita said, it has been like a very emotional journey, like, starting from like very being the very first batch of DSC in Malaysia and like growing a club and a community from like, literally from grounds up. What you mentioned has been like a very emotional and like, amazing journey. And definitely like, we have been part of something which is something big. We have a big community of friends we have met along the way. And, like it has been a part of our life for like, the past few months. And like passing this away would be something that I would like personally really miss. I believe like everyone of us will do. But like at the same time, I'm really excited to see what like the next batch takes it over and what they do with the club and how far they can push it, because obviously, like, we tried our best to do it, and hopefully they will achieve greater things. But also believe, like, in some way we'll always be a part of this community, like, the broader DSC community, as like, ex leads or whatever, because like the friendships and like the relationships we have made through this would probably last way for beyond, like, just being like current leads and further than that. So yeah, that's been great so far, and hopefully it will continue being great.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I wouldn't know you guys if it wasn't for the DSC Leads, right? And then moving on, I also would like to let the viewers know that the DSC application form is actually still live until the 1st of June. So really, I hope all of you who haven't applied, please apply to be a DSC Lead. The link is right there at the bottom of the screen. So, all right, so let's get this out of the way. And then what about you, Daffy? Like, what do you think is the most memorable memory of being a DSC Lead is for you?
One of the memorable things actually being part of DSC is actually all the events and connections network that actually we had together. Like even though yes, within our community itself, we had like multiple workshops, like Flutter workshops and all, and then we were talking with the student audience and engaging with them to to such new Google technology, but also in the fact that we are able to network with different people that has different tech background. So, like for example, a simple example would be like DSC, Kita Hack DSC, basically that was led by Amrita. That was actually one of the most I like that event a lot because everyone had their own role. They need to basically commit to something, and it was also good actually looking at how each team actually came up with different ideas to solving a solution that they think is a problem. So that was actually one of the most memorable things actually happened in my Thai DSC. So yeah, there are a lot of other memorable things actually that happened in my community, but that's just one of them.
What about you, Ivan? Do you have any like memorable things that you want to mention as a DSC?
For me, I think the most memorable thing is the first event that we have.
Nice.
So yeah, basically it's like it's a course study jam, and we all are quite lost, like we don't know how to start, and so we're just like going step by step slowly, and then we are working in a team. That's how we are working with people that we are not that close with. So basically, if we are spending time working on something together, we'll eventually bond together, and then after this first event, like the coming events will be easier and easier. Yeah. So I think like having a team working on things together is quite memorable thing for me, memorable moment for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really nice. And for me, I think it was actually the Dev Fest. That was very fortunately we were all invited by Alavi to join as volunteers. Yeah, I think like the Dev Fest itself was like really fun for us. It opened my eyes to like a lot of the new things that I didn't know, and we also had a chance to work with the GDG KL, and it gave us like a bit of time to bond together as friends, I would say.
Yes, I think that was probably like the best.
Yeah, I will take whatever I sit back and agree with Kit for that.
Like the DSC summit
like so many memories.
Yeah.
Sorry?
That was like the best. Yeah.
I guess that's one of the events that we really got to know each other, like how we are, and then like all the funny jokes that we had.
Many jokes, many inside jokes.
Okay, so Alavi, who has inspired you during this journey as a DSC lead?
Well, I feel like, every one of the leads have inspired me in some way, and like not just like because everyone, there's something, like I truly believe in this thing that there's something new to learn from everyone we meet. So in that context, like, working with different people, like, from leads from different places, different countries, it has been like an amazing experience learning from them. And obviously, like our community manager, Shad, has been a huge influence, who has probably like, kept us in a bunch and, lead from the front. So he has definitely been a great influence. I also accept that like the people we met from our summit, Komal, the DSC team, and even like the different experts from the different like Google experts from different part of the world were also great inspirations. And like that truly was a motivation in a way, and like to do something that is great and do something that it's not just about yourself and more toward helping the community as well. So yeah, that has been a great inspiration and a motivation overall.
I agree. What about you, Daffy? Do you have anything to add?
Well, to inspiration part, I think I definitely agree with what Alavi has said, because all of us were like inspiration to each other. Like everyone actually had their own things that they wanted to do for the community itself, and then we got to like learn a lot of things from them. Like especially when we want to actually make things happen in our community, we see like other like leads actually doing other things. Like for example, even during this pandemic, I saw like Amrita, basically she made like a lot of what's called live series session during this pandemic. And these are kind of things that I kind of like. It's actually quite inspiring because like even during this pandemic itself, we can do a lot of things. It's not, and by that, what I mean is that everyone is actually a so-called inspiration to me, I would say.
Great, that's great.
But before that, I'd like to basically pop it out to Shad. I mean, I wish he's looking at this, because Shad actually really did like a good job in helping us a lot, especially during our entire term. So respect to Shad for that.
I totally agree. I think if it wasn't for Shad, like most of us wouldn't have the motivation that we have right now.
Really,
really push through with all the events and all the contributions. So really shout out to Shad.
Yeah.
And then way fun.
It's like even the online events and stuff. Actually, I still remember when this whole MCO thing started. I was kind of like disappointed, like, okay, like what are we going to do next? Like, how do we reach out to people and stuff? And I remember like texting Shad and asking like, Shad, can I talk to you? And Shad being Shad, he never says no to us. Immediately he was like, okay, let's set a call. And I was telling him how I feel like lost and stuff, like how do we go ahead? And that's when like Shad kept inspiring us with, he shared with us about all these different alternatives that we could use to reach out to people. It's not just like the moment we don't get to see people in person, everything is over. And he kept motivating me in that sense. He would also like check on me and all of us on WhatsApp and stuff. I guess like having someone like Shad is probably like the best thing for us. Leads to keep us going and to have the drive to do what we're passionate about.
Yeah, and one of the good things about Shad is that like he really adapts to how to communicate with us. Like we have a Slack channel, right? But then like us Malaysians, we don't really use like Slack as that much compared to WhatsApp. So he actually like made the effort to like use WhatsApp and then come talk to us on WhatsApp. And then like that's really props to him.
Yeah.
And then so moving on, so way fun. So like I bet a lot of the DSC leads that are like watching this, most of them might be building this club from the ground up, as they have no like DSC in their university. So like from your experience, right, like from running the club from the Sunway Tech, your own club, and then and also as DSC, what are the kind of things that you should really like remind them? How do they to properly plan and execute to run a successful club?
You're saying that to run DSC in an existing club, like how do we do that? Okay, so basically we are seeing like at the same direction, because both are looking at the same direction. They are both like to reduce the gap between like the industry and education. So we are doing what we are previously doing. So we are doing events, but we are like adding on with some Google resources, with like cloud study gems and like all the other quick labs and stuff, like other Google frameworks and tools that we can use to teach the students. And so I think it comes to like the material that we use. So we are differentiating, like, okay, so this one we can have like our usual normal events, but we'll see like, okay, whether this is suitable to be a DSC event or not. So let's say, because we are also like doing like AWS, and we are doing like other tools that is not related to Google. So we are seeing like, this as a benefit to our club, and to help. It's also another way to see, like, to bring more exposure to the students. So basically, with all the resources that we have from DSC, so basically it's boosting, it's helping us a lot with our content. So like in the previous live session, I mentioned that the problem with organizing an event is like to have proper content, to have something that to how do I say, like, have a good speaker and a good content is very important to have to run a workshop. So I think this is very important. So the most important thing is provided by Google. So what comes next is the speakers and how do we market the event and stuff. So yeah, I think these are like the tips that you can have when you're running DSC aside with your club. Yeah.
Yeah, sounds great. So like, would you suggest that they should maybe like invite a experienced like external speaker, or maybe they can train up their own speakers from the club?
Yeah, we can always invite external speakers. So yeah, with our DSC, we can have connections with GDGKL. Like, we know people like Shangi, like they like so basically it's all right for us to invite them to, like, I think they are good with because they are most experienced compared to a student. So they have been working and they have been using like this tool. So it's better to like invite them to like share what they are doing. Also, we also have like company visits to like to see like what they do in their daily life. So we can see like we can get the students more prepared before they go for their internship and stuff. Yeah.
I see. And Amrita as well, I know you were before DSC, you were in the Tech App Club, right, from UM. So like, do you have any advice for students like coming from an existing club with like tech apps selling with their content and then moving to DSC content?
So I guess like, so we have this UM App Club in our university like for the past 3 or 4 years going. So I guess how it helped me was I sort of knew how organizing events would work and stuff like that. So for students who already have an existing club in their university, I guess you could use your experience from that, like how you organize events and how you could improve the content, like Wei Fan said, because that is really the core of the whole workshop and the main purpose of like why we're reaching out to students, right? To make sure that we give them the right content and they actually gain something out of it. So one thing would be planning ahead. That's really important. So what I did when we first started DSC was once I got all my core team members together, we had this meeting and we planned ahead for the next 6 months itself, like what we're going to do, like when are the workshops and all that. Like we have a timeline for that. And at the same time, we also planned out like what would be the content for each session. So like it was all planned ahead in the beginning itself. Of course, like along the way, we do like tweak a bit, but I guess it's really important to have this like a skeleton structure, or so that like everyone in your core team knows what to do and how to improve and stuff. And the other thing would be that every time you have a session, it's really, really important to get feedback from your participants. So every time you have a session, like share with them like a Google form or something, asking them how we could improve and what are the things that they like about it and what they don't like about it, and keep improving every time you have another session according to like what feedback you get from your participants.
Yeah, that's great. And then Alavi, like, what about you? Do you have any like problems with like running DSC Lead?
Like for us as well, like we had an existing club, which was we call APUSDS, which is like the Student Developer Society, and I feel like that provided some form of a framework for us to build DSC upon. But because I would suggest new leads, even if you become a lead and you're not part of an existing tech organization in your university, and if there is one, you should definitely reach out to them because their experiences and their connections would definitely help you grow your club further. Because at the core, like each university is different. Like how your community, what your community wants, and how you what they need is different for each university. For tech universities, it might be something else. For business schools, it might be something else. So it depends. Those people who are already running these clubs definitely had some experience, which they can definitely help you with. And obviously, having DSC as a brand would obviously, because it's somehow related to Google generates a buzz, provides you with a sort of a validation, I would say, and like people are more excited to attend your events, so you have a bigger reach. But it's with that comes with, obviously we have access to great contents through our study jams or workshop sessions and everything, which also adds value. But and like obviously the network of speakers we can reach out to. But it's I would say it's very important. Like if there's a tech society or a club in your university, for new leads, we should definitely collaborate with them or try out ways to work together, because that would definitely help your journey in building a more like sustainable community. Because at the core, it's not about the titles; it's more about how much value you provide back to your student community and how much you're catering to their needs. So that's what essentially we're all trying to do as a whole in whatever, like even if we run as DSC or we run as Student Developer Society. So I would feel that has like significant importance, and we should definitely like look into that.
Yep. Daffy, do you have anything to add?
That's actually quite good from what Alavi has said, because at least he had APU, his own club, to actually use as a framework. But I will say that when it comes to challenges and obstacles that, like for example, for DSCTP that has faced, it's more towards bringing the community, especially bringing students to understand what is DSC all about. Because like not a lot of students are really passionate in tech. Maybe some of them basically doing IT, but they don't really into like practical stuff. So that was our challenges. But I guess down the road, it's more of like getting people to understand what DSC is about and how it can actually help them within their own projects, or maybe because especially finding up students, because they have FYP projects to actually do. And with this particular platform, they actually can learn a lot from it. Because you actually even have a lot of students who are not aware of GitHub. Like they don't even know how GitHub works. So this is how amazing DSC is. And yes, that was one of our obstacles, but we actually managed to actually overcome it by spreading the word of DSC in our community.
Yeah, I think I also want to emphasize on like how important it is to actually really have a proper, like what Amrita said, have a proper framework of like what you want to do for like that whole 1 year, and then to really look upon to other clubs that have been doing this and ask advice from them, or maybe like integrate with them as well. So like, and if you don't, you can always ask, like as a DSC lead, you can always ask other DSC leads who maybe have experience. So this is actually one of the most important things that the new batch should really emphasize on. So moving on, right, to really carry on what I'm asking now. So like Daffy, so if you could go back in time to that moment when you went back from the summit and then you want to start with your DSC UTP, right? What is that one thing that you want to do differently, or maybe do you want to do it the same way?
The one thing that I would like to do differently is how I connect with everyone during the DSC summit. That's one thing, because like I realized that it took like a lot of events and a lot of meeting with chat to actually get to know each other. But the one thing I like to do well, twice better, is actually connecting with you guys, especially during the summit, because that if like say for example, because that time itself I knew, like for example, I knew Amrita, but I didn't exactly know her to that point where actually I can ask her questions and all that. But through like various events, I got closer to her and got to understand more about this particular DSC leader, what she does and everything. So that's actually one of the things that I would definitely like to work on. I mean, if I had the time, if I had the opportunity to go back in time and fix it if I had.
Mhm.
The other one will be more towards of how because of how I actually let's say presented myself in front of everyone during DSC Summit, because during the time itself, I mean, like a lot of people said that I was like a durian, where basically I had this like face where I don't show that kind of kindness or anything, like don't talk to this kind of person. So that's actually one. I mean, that's probably the reason why I don't connect with much people, but it's mainly that. And yeah, it's mainly that. And I hope, I mean, one of the things I also like to do is probably connect more with the DSC experts, because during the entire talk sessions, we actually had all of them, especially one of them, I forgot his name, but he actually gave an amazing talk about machine learning. And I got to realize that he actually doesn't have Facebook or anything. You just have to connect with him through email. And I couldn't really find his name, but he was amazing. So that's actually one of the other things that I would like to do, to connect with them more. So yeah, that's more about it.
That was really nice.
Yeah.
Weifan, what about you? Would you like do things differently, like given the chance to go back in time?
Yeah, of course. Like what Daffy said. Like I wish that we were closer from the start, so we can do a lot of things together. Like we can have I think it's wish I would like ask for like all of us to like create one like whole big event together, like instead of just each of us handling our own events. So I think back then I wasn't I didn't reach out that much. So we actually we only did like reach out to GGKL and stuff, but we didn't. I don't know, like we didn't reach out to each other. So I think if I could go back in time, I would do that more often. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay, so I will move this question to Alavi as well, but with a twist. So I want you to say like what you would do differently, but only to your DSC club specifically, like how you will run it.
Okay. In terms of what I would do differently is definitely that, which I regret like right now, is that not doing more engagements online. Because like when we started the club, even previously with our existing clubs, we ran most of our stuff in person. So we had amazing crowds in person. But like since the momentum shifted after COVID and everything went, basically all our events went into like planned events went down. We personally had a really hard time connecting with our audience, because we saw the engagements were not good enough. So because most of our participants really wanted to like knew us for our in-person events, right? And when we tried to convince them that like the in-person events and the online events would provide the same kind of value, we struggled a bit because they never attended any of that. So that's one definitely a struggle that we're currently having right now. So if I could start this journey, like rewind back into like the next 6 months, previous 6 months or 8 months, I would probably have a mixture of both offline in-person events and try to do online talks and workshops as well, so that my audience is like our audience, our community is actually like normalized with both, and see like both has value, rather than us just like disappearing for like a few months, which I believe has hurt like our engagement rates and everything. So yeah, that's definitely one thing I would do differently if I can start over DSC again.
Yeah, like for sure. Like for me as well, like I think given the chance, I would definitely do things way different from what I'm doing now, because I actually regretted a lot of things, because like for me, I'm probably pretty inexperienced on like how to run a club, especially like a tech club, and like giving the proper content. So there's a lot of things that I regretted, but then a lot of things also that I've learned along the way. So for Amrita, right? So like let's move on to the idea of the engagement. So I think a lot of us, most of us probably have this problem of like engaging with the audience, of like how do we like have a good retention with the audience, right? Make them come back for each and every event. Like how do you guys do it?
I guess the main thing is, again, like what I mentioned earlier, getting their feedback, because that's when we understand. I mean, because like sometimes we can keep giving stuff and we think that what we're doing is good, but it's always important to make sure that those who are receiving it actually receive what we're trying to give. So I remember like when we first started our workshops on app development. So like the first workshop we had it, and then after some time we realized that like half of the group, they seem to be quite experienced, and another half is like totally beginners. So we realized like we can't have like a session where both these groups are together, right? Because that would frustrate the facilitator and also those who are attending the workshop. So I guess understanding your audience is very important. So which is why again, feedback. I would always say, always get feedback from your participants.
Yeah, sounds great. So moving on, like I think there's a lot of aspects to how to run a successful club. Like we can talk about feedback, we can talk about giving good content. But I think one thing we really miss out is like a really good core team. So Daffy, how would you define your good core team?
Well, very good question. Very good question. Well, in terms of my core team, it's like core team itself is a combination of different people with different expertise. Like for my core team itself, although basically I'm good in technical and being a leader itself, I had to have another one expert or a tech person who actually knows like all the technologies behind every single frameworks or platforms or tools that are actually out there. Um, it's also good for those who are basically planning to become the next DSC lead, but he or she is not exactly good in technical stuff. So at least in the core team itself, they can actually at least have one or two tech experts. And for my core team itself, we have like secretary, and we had like marketing people to actually focus on a lot of things when it comes to Facebook, Instagram, sharing about the events and all that. So like in my core team, in the core team itself, I would say that as long as you have like a team a team that actually does what they're supposed to do, like the job role has been assigned from the start, I don't think so you'll be having any problems with executing it. Like I've seen like a lot of people, especially from other what's called university, like Amrita, Alavi, and Wayfan. They actually had like a lot of good. They actually had a good core team that is able to execute like a lot of events. Like for example, Alavi is one of it. During there was one time where there was like a lot of events being executed by him, but thanks to pandemic, he's like this right now. So yeah.
Yeah, okay, put us down in a way.
Yeah. So in terms of the core team, I think it's good to actually have a very good technical person, two or one or two, that knows what needs to be done or what's for the community, and a secretary and a marketing person. At least they know what's their role and job. I think that's more about it. Yeah.
Yeah, so like basically you have a person in charge of like one thing specifically, right?
Yes, correct. Like each one will be specific on like they have the role assigned from the start itself. What's their job scope and everything, and you need to execute it. So, for example, when you want to make an event happen, we, especially with the technical person, I will always like communicate with him like what can we share with the community. The community basically has like this kind of people like from which standard. So we need to basically know the contents that we're going to share. Are they able to understand or not? And then the marketing person in charge, he will basically share the word to Facebook, Instagram, and of course informing the university about this particular event itself. And the secretary will be in charge of taking information notes down when certain things happen, so that ensure that everyone basically is tallies to what we're going to do. And of course there'll be it's also the secretary itself will ensure, me and the secretary will ensure that everyone basically have done what they're supposed to do within the deadlines that has been mentioned. So as long as the team has everyone doing their job, it will definitely pull out the event successfully.
That's great. That's really great advice. So Alavi, like seeing like how Daffy said you have like a really good core team, right? So how was your like recruitment process? Like can you like enlighten us?
Yeah, definitely. I was like really lucky to have a really good core team in place. Like that's basically really helped us to execute events. And in terms of the team, I feel like diversity is very important. Like your team should definitely have a diverse skill set. Just because it's a tech club, it shouldn't be like everyone should be a developer or like So what we focused on from the very beginning of when we started recruiting a team would have been like how to have diverse people with like diverse who can play diverse roles and have diverse skill sets. So we had a designer for all of our content. We had a secretary who, as Daffy mentioned, can do like the paperwork stuff. Because universities also you have to deal with proposals and you have to deal with the logistics stuff, which is definitely a lot of work. So that a secretary can definitely help you. I had a dedicated person for events. So we had a dedicated events manager who worked with me to decide, like, once we came up with a plan of what event we were going to do, the logistics stuff for that and the groundwork was handled by the event manager. And we obviously had someone as a tech lead who can also, who's better versed in tech than like, me or like the team combined. So who can also help around with tech stuff during workshops or everything as tech support. So yeah, that's how we approached it, because that's what I want to tie back into like having experience from running a previous club or collaborating with the previous club really helped, because we knew what kind of roles will suit us in our university to run something efficiently. Because if you if it's just one person, trust me, it's never going to work properly, because there's no way you can like execute. Maximum you can do is probably one event alone, and then after that you'll probably give up and be like, okay, I'm done with this and I don't want to like move any further. So yeah, hey Raven. So he's the guy, he's the tech guy. So like I say hi to Raven. And so yeah, basically it has to be diverse, and so and it's also good to have people who can wear many hats. Like it's not just the event manager has to focus on doing events only. They can run logistics or even host a workshop. Like our event manager also runs our Explore ML program, which is like another Google program. So it's definitely diversity. And while recruiting, I wouldn't say we really focused on mostly on their skills, but also how much they were willing to commit to it. Because after all, it's actually a very big time commitment, because with schoolwork, with assignments and everything, we really have to commit, take out a portion of time to run DSC or like community events. So we definitely took that into account while doing it. So most of us were in the same page and we're in sync to know like how we want to move forward and everything. And I feel like luckily that worked really good for me, and I got lucky and had a really amazing team to back me and execute our activities and everything. So that was amazing. So yeah, shout out to my team at DSC for like supporting throughout the way. Yeah.
Yeah. So according to Ravin, Daffy is admiring Alavi.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
So yeah, I guess like among to all of us, like we will all think that our core team is like really what helped us achieve the impossible, right? Like Weifan, do you have anything to share as well, like to how your recruitment process is?
Yeah, I think for our core team, we are handling it different with you guys. So we don't have like a strict. We do have like a strict head of tech lead or like secretary and this, but for all our events, we'll form like a team for that. So for this, so more people can have like experience with like doing different stuff. So like what Alavi said, that there are people who it's better to have people who are like wear many hats. So we are trying to do that. Like that. Let's say you want to design the poster for this event, but for the next event you want to do something else. So you get to learn different stuff. Yeah, but of course there are some cons of this way. So like let's say if you're not part of this event, you won't know like what's happening. So you have to be fast. So like each of our team, we have like a limited slot, so people who can be in charge of it. So the reason that we moved to this is because that we are trying to cope with like events, like everyone to get to be a part of like event management team. So we have this problem, like if we are doing it, if the entire core team is doing it, so some people will have like they won't be able to contribute much. So if we split it down like this, everyone can contribute as much as they can. So and also we can have like a lot of events as well, because you won't have conflict with each other. Like not one person will be working on two events. So yeah, so this is like how we handle it.
Yeah. I think that's a really like great idea as well. Like it gives people like to try different things like according to what they like. So it's more of like an event-based like volunteering kind of thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a really really fresh idea. So like Amrita, what about you?
So for me, what we did was we have the technical and the non-technical team. So for the technical team, since we have study jams, Explore ML, and app development workshops, so there are like 3 different tracks, right? So we have 3 different teams for it. So the core team would lead a team of their own. So for instance, let's say like the app development team, they would have 1 core team member and also 3 other team members. So what was my mission was like, I didn't want it to be just one person leading every workshop. I wanted to make sure that whoever is part of DSC, they get a chance to also get in front and start teaching stuff. So I think it's best when you start teaching people, you learn best when you start teaching people. So that was one thing that we did. So other than that, we had this non-technical team as well. So we had this community, communication, creative, and yeah, okay. So the community team, what they did was they made sure that we always get to reach out to our members and all students around so that they know what's going on and, you know, sort of like get a personal touch. They feel like they're part of this team as well, because I think it's really important for everyone to have that sense of belonging, because DSC is for everyone. It's not just for those who apply to be members and stuff like that, right? And the communication team does this as well. They manage the social media accounts and make sure that everyone knows what's going on and stuff. And the creative team comes up with all these really amazing designs to make sure that people like what they see, right? Because I mean, what you see, that's what attracts you towards something. And which is why I think, like Alavi said, the diversity is really, really important. And being a huge campus, we have like different faculties and stuff. We didn't want this to be just for the students taking computer science or IT. We wanted it to be for students like from whatever background, because we didn't want it to be something exclusive or something like everyone should get it. So we had team members from the engineering fac, science fac, and some from law. So it was a very diverse community. I think that's what adds the value to it. And having a core team with different background really makes it interesting, because they have different expertise to bring it to the table and offer it to the team. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really good take as well. But I think I have another question for Wei Fan. So like for your style of like, let's say event-based, right? Do you have any trouble of like, let's say streamlining your like expectations for every event? Like, do you have like any problems with that?
So you're saying like so of course we still have like the head of marketing. We still we have the head of education, head of others. So we still have all these heads, and like before. So basically, they act as like an advisor, and they also review on like the things that they do. So let's say I'm the head of design. So right now, one of the team member, he designed the poster, and then of course he don't know what to start. Like he needs the template. He wants to know like how do I start this, because we are letting you try, and this is your first time. So of course you don't know how to do. So they can look for the heads, and then they'll like guide them. So basically, this way we can easily know that who is interested in what, and we can see that. So like every year when we are passing on to the new batch, we can easily see that who's most passionate in doing like technical stuff, who's more passionate in doing like the design stuff. Okay, so this is how we. This is also another way that we make sure that the quality is good. So like everything that before we post in social media, we have to go through the marketing head of marketing first, and he has to check that everything is okay. So instead of like giving them full freedom to do anything they want. Yeah.
That's great. Okay, Alavi. So I have a question. For recruitment, right? Is it better to recruit your friends or strangers?
Okay, that's sort of a hard question. Obviously you'd be tempted to work with your friends because you know them well and you feel like you'll sync up with them well. But when we did recruiting for a community, we actually took the perspective of how much each of this individual will bring value to the team. It's not about if it's that person is our friend or not our friend, or it's someone totally strange, like new and from like a first intake or everything, because that's what we focused on. Like we wanted to see if they bring what value they can bring to the table. Obviously we have friends in the team but those people are those we know that already has established record of helping out in communities and doing stuff with us. Those are the people involved. And obviously we recruited people, and I made friends through this. Obviously, like I recruited people who I didn't know at all from university, and through this we are really good friends right now. And so yeah, it's not about friends or strangers. It's about who can bring the most value to your team in a way, and who can contribute the most. So that's the approach we took for our recruitment.
Okay, Daffy, what's your take on the question?
Actually, that's a really good question. Like for my case, I had to choose those who actually I know them because they were from different clubs that are related to tech, and I had to like pull them thanks to one of the person, I forgot his name, Alex. Yeah, he was actually helping me out in getting people that he actually knows well, because we actually need different roles and different positions and all that. So in the fact that for my case, I didn't really have like a lot of friends. I mean, I didn't really choose from friends. Though. I mean, I do know them, but it's not really friends. But with them, I realized that I got to work like very well, because because for my case, right, I had to get people that are able to do the work well, like they're very capable. Although they're from a different background, like what Amrita said or Alavi said, diversity, like a diverse people. So getting people in my core team was not actually an issue. Knowing the fact that they're not exactly my friends, but they are now. Just that during the time itself when I had them, they're not my friends, and I realized that it was actually great working with them. Like the thing about having friends is that I mean, Alavi, yeah, you can say what you want, Alavi, but having friends, right, is that sometimes things are not really done. Like, when it's actually, some people actually take it for granted, knowing the fact that, hey, we need to submit today, but now we can meet tomorrow and all that. So that's actually something that you need to be really careful of. Unless some people, like some friends that, really committed, they want to just help you out, let's make this happen. That's a different case. So that's actually a good question. And my answer to that was like for my case, I was grateful that I actually had a team that they're not exactly my friends during the start, but we actually managed to actually get well together, and we actually worked our way together throughout this entire term. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good answer. I guess one of the scenario that was running through my head is like for example, you have something due, and then your friend is like supposed to do it, but then you haven't heard from him for a while, and then because he's your friend, so it's kind of awkward to kind of like boss him a little bit. So that's kind of one of those weird situations.
I think bossing around is less awkward if it's your friend,
right? Yeah, if it's like a stranger,
yeah. So yeah, but it's like if it's your friend, you're obviously more comfortable communicating with them. So, but if it's a complete stranger, and let's say it's your first week working with them, and you suddenly be like, hey, why aren't you doing this properly? That automatically creates a bad reputation from the start. So it's you just have to be it's about empathy. You have to be really you have to show empathy if you're working with people from different in teams and all, because everyone has a role to play, obviously, but you have to understand that there are certain limitations, and they might be busy or something. So you just have to understand that and move forward accordingly. So yeah, and not be
Agreed. Agreed. So let's continue the train. Amrita, maybe you could describe your way of leadership, maybe as a DSC lead, or how do you say is the most ideal way of leading a club?
Sorry, I think my connection went for a bit.
Oh, no worries. So I was saying like what would be your like most like ideal way of like leading a club as a DSC lead?
I think what I practiced was making sure that the connection between the members is really strong, like the bond is important. So I think when we first started, most of them I didn't know them personally. Like I know them like through other events or something. Like I've seen their work and stuff like that. But most of them I didn't know them personally. But over the time, we actually I think that having a very getting to know them personally sort of helps as well, because that's when the bond becomes strong. And once the bond is strong, I guess that's when the motivation and everyone gets aligned at going towards like the goal, trying to achieve the goal. So I think that's very important, having a very good connection with your entire community, not just with your core team, but also those students who attend your workshops and stuff. Like I think it's really important in that sense. Yeah.
That's great. Wei Fan, do you want to chip in your take on this?
On leadership, you are asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with what Amrita said about like having a bond is very important, and also I think everyone has to know that everyone has to have the same direction. Yeah, so I think that's the hardest thing that the lead have to do, is to convince everyone to have the same vision as you. So I think that's what we learned during the summit too. What we must have first is a vision. So we must tell like our core member what our vision is, what we hope to see, what is our ultimate goal for this core team. So if the whole team agrees with you, like if we are all working together towards the same direction, everything get easier. So there wouldn't be like a lot of conflicts and stuff like why are we doing this, why are we doing that. So they'll feel motivated to do so, because like we can see from the feedback, like we can see like from one event to another, it gives you like a momentum. So I think like this is what all of us have experienced. Like we are working together in a team. So like the first event, of course, is the hardest, but when we go to like the fifth or like the sixth one, we are getting used to each other. So we are used to doing things together. So yeah, I think that's another important point to bring up.
Have you ever had any like let's say team members that are like really excited and like enthusiastic in the first few months, and then slowly you don't hear from them? Like how do you solve that?
Yeah, we do have that. So we would have to. So the first thing that we tried to avoid this, because previously our existing club we also have this problem. So we one way to avoid this is, previously we don't keep track of like attendance and stuff. So now during our meetings we'll like keep track of them, and then we'll see like who is less active, and then we'll like try to reach out to them, to talk to them, to see what's their problem. Maybe they are just like busier with maybe final year project and stuff. So I think that's one way for us to like to fix this problem, to approach them and like ask how they are doing. We noticed that their attendance, they are not attending our meetings and stuff.
Yeah, that's a great point. So like Defi as well, like what are your approaches to like keeping the team motivated? Like what do you do? Do you like bond with them with activities?
Usually I like to have those bonding time with them, mostly just, yes, you're right, activities, especially like online games, because especially like certain times we can't really meet face to face. So what we do is that we have an online meeting, we talk with each other and all, have certain games and all. Also during the time where during our first or second meeting, when I actually had the people, like when I had my team itself, I can tell that people were like not aware, like they're not really okay with each other and stuff. Like probably they weren't really feeling comfortable yet with the team. So I remember that day itself, I had to like, hey, let's go for a pizza party, and I just bought them pizzas, and everyone's enjoyed. So throughout the entire term itself, having engagement with the team is actually very important, because you want to ensure that everyone's doing well. Just ask them questions like how are you doing and all that. and just to get everyone, like remind, and not just keep silent for a while and then come back to normal. So yeah, it's mostly bonding and having activities, and we know that now we actually have a lot of online ways of interacting with our team. Kahoot, like how Shai does it all the time with us, during every Wednesday. And yeah, I mean, it's grateful, like the fact that we have all these technologies also to enable us to engage with the team. Yeah.
Agreed. So moving on. So Amrita, so during this pandemic situation, right? So let's say after this we're going back to normal. Would you advise the new leads to continue with online workshops, or should they do in-person workshops, or a mix of both? What's your take?
I think it should be a mix of both, because what I realized was ever since this pandemic started, when we started doing all these live workshops and stuff, the content that we're creating, it's not limited to just those who attend our workshop, but also if people want to look back to it or refer to something, they can always go and watch it again. And also those who are probably living far away from where we are, but they don't have a DSC community in their campus, so they could also get this access. It becomes really accessible to everyone. So I guess if you're comfortable with it, and those conducting the workshop is comfortable with it, while having these in-person workshop, you could probably stream it as well. So that would be really helpful, not just for those who are attending your workshop, but also for those who are passionate about it, but they don't have the opportunity. So I guess it would be good to have both.
Right, that's great. Maybe Wei Fan, what's your take on it as well?
Yeah, so we have, when we are deciding on having an online workshop, we have this question. So why would they want to go for us rather than looking for some YouTube videos that maybe provide better quality than us? So we are thinking that so one way we solve this is we provide a very short brief on what we are going to cover, and then we are doing it. It's just like a teaser, and we are doing the real thing in a physical workshop. So it's more like short session. So we are going half of it. So if you want to continue, you must come to our physical workshop. So this way we get interaction, because they are closer to us, and then it's easier to handle a smaller group than the whole internet of people. What if you want to have some Kahoot, and then a lot of people wants to join, and I think yeah, the larger number is harder to handle. So I think that's how we are handling it. And also another thing is we try to target students from so basically we are targeting students, but we are also targeting students from different fields. So we're making it as a simple, instead of comparing to the online YouTube courses that they okay. Yeah, that they have some requirements that before you take the courses, before you learn from all this. So we are doing more basic stuff, so anyone can learn. If you are from other fields, you can just jump to our video, because this is we don't expect to provide a very quality level stuff. So this is how we start, and then we'll see how we can evolve from this kind of thing. Maybe we'll do something bigger than this. Yeah,
that's great. Thank you for your input. And then one more question for Alavi is that when you do a session, right, what do you think is the ideal amount? Do you want to target more people, or do you want to target a small group of people?
Okay, so this has been a running discussion for us since we started, because we balanced both out. We experimented with having a more smaller group of participants, and also a very large group of participants. But it actually depends on the content we're delivering, I feel, because not most, if you're doing something that is very highly technical, suppose let's say we're doing Firebase, or something that has a lot of steps, or we're doing quick labs, it has a lot of steps where us as facilitators need to go around and help people. So, or something even Flutter. So we found out that it's better to have a manageable crowd if you're doing highly technical stuff, where you can like we have a bunch of facilitators, like 6 to 7 facilitators for, let's say, 40 participants. So usually our workshops we run for 40 participants per workshop. Why 40 is because like our lab is limited to 40 seats, so that's one of the reasons we chose 40. And like we became comfortable like managing 40 people, like 6 or 7 of us who we have some like we can go around and help people individually, so that it's not just them listening to the speaker, it's just they can also follow along and actually get the value out of it. Because in some of the workshops, people, they might not have any idea of what Firebase is or what GCP is, and they would still come. So we don't want those people to be like disappointed because they didn't understand anything. So we try our best to interact with them like one-on-one and talk to them and show them the steps and say like how they can, pursue this further or what they can do. Because in one of our events, we had a participant who was not familiar with any web or mobile technology, but he came for a Firebase workshop. So to explain to him what Firebase is and how you can how it can be helpful for you and all that, it really needs you to really interact with your audience. And it's really hard for like the main facilitator to do so with individually. So as co-facilitators, we go around and help everyone. But at the same time, like if you're doing events such as, let's say, Google Explorer Now, or if it's a talk which is not into technical hands-on, we would obviously target a bigger crowd because we want them to come in for it and then come for our workshops as a follow-up. So if it's something that we're giving you an overview of a program or a technology, we will target that audience, a bigger audience. So it really depends on what kind of events we're going for, and if it's technical, we try to keep it as small as possible, so that it's ultimately for it's not about the numbers, it's about what value you provide. So as we want to maximize value for our participants and our community as much as possible. So yeah, instead of pushing just numbers. So that's how we approach it at APU.
I agree. That was very insightful. Like, Daffy, do you have anything to add on to that?
To what Alavi has said, that's actually quite true. Actually, really depends. Like, for example, for our case, when it comes to having people practicals, right, we will actually have it according to how much the lab can allocate, because that's actually the most important thing. Because I'm pretty much sure everyone would like to. There are certain people who like to use it on laptops, but we need to ensure that everyone can have access to the computers in the lab, having their own space so that basically they can learn this kind of stuff. So it really depends. Like for my case, actually it depends on the lab of how many people you can actually take in. So,
yeah, agreed. So it's actually 10 p.m. now, and if there are any questions from the floor, like if there are any live streamers that want to ask us questions.
yeah,
If not, at the meantime, I actually have a question for Alavi. Like you went back to Bangladesh for an internship, right? Like how was the tech scene different compared to Malaysia?
Okay, this is a very interesting question, and I feel like it's going to be a very long discussion if I go into that. But I basically interned at more of a traditional conglomerate, which is a very big, large company, and who does business in mostly traditional ways. So I would say that experience was eye-opening to keep it simple, because I expected it to be way more because we are already, as leads and even as tech enthusiasts, we're always messing with new technology. We're trying to do the newest thing. We're trying to do Vue. We're trying to do GCP, AWS, Firebase, whatever it's new. We're trying to jump onto it. But at the internship, when you go in, you see it's I did was HTML, CSS, and PHP and JavaScript. So basically, and so when I went there and I'm okay, and I constantly tried to push ideas let's say let's do something, use a new technology for this. But I quickly found out after a few weeks that it's not always the best option, because there's already obviously reliability in question. There's about how technically sound your team is and how well they know a certain tech. So that was a challenge in a way, because I feel I had like my expectations got balanced. And if you want me to like compare it to Malaysia, I feel like it's because I didn't work at a startup in Bangladesh. I feel like startups would have been more up paced than larger or like I would say traditional companies in a way. So if it compared to Malaysia, I don't have any experience working with Malaysian companies, so I can't really do a comparison. But I believe it's actually even if like what I heard from my friends who have worked in similar places in Malaysia and also who have worked in startups, it's more or less the same, and it actually depends on the size of the company or what kind of company it is. Because my company operated in, let's say, like port operations, which is very traditional and consumer goods. So it's not a tech company. So if you work in a tech company, obviously as a tech student, you'd find it more fun. I wouldn't say that I didn't find it fun. It was definitely a experience, like like have my expectations minimized, and also also I definitely did get to learn a lot. So no matter what company you work at and in which country, there's definitely something you can take back from it. So yeah, it's definitely an experience overall.
Yeah. So we actually have a question from someone. Maybe Amrita, you want to answer this?
Yeah, sure. Yes. I think that you don't have to be like some programming god or something to become a DSC lead. As long as you sort of like understand how it works and stuff like that, you can always try to apply for being a DSC lead, because it's not about just knowing how to code stuff or program stuff. It's not just about that. It's also important how you connect with people and how you're passionate about solving problems. Things like that are also really important. So if you're not super good at tech, don't worry, you can still apply to be a DSC lead. Just make sure that you know how it works. At least you have a good understanding of how tech works.
Yeah, and like I also would like to add, like when I applied as a DSC lead, like I'm super bad at like programming and stuff. Like going to the summit, like talking to like Wei Fan, like he talked to me about like React, and then like talking to like Moses about Flutter. Like they really taught me a lot of things that I didn't know, and like it kind of like opened my eye to like what I can learn and like what I should learn along the way as like a developer, as a DSC lead, and to provide content to people. So you don't have to be super good, but I guess having the motivation to learn and like give to the community is one of the bigger parts.
Totally agree with that.
Question? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. It's about how it's not just about tech. Even though it's a tech club, it's about how you connect to people, and it's about building a community. So it's like obviously you need to know a bit of tech. I mean, I wouldn't say like tech is not important at all, but you do need to know a bit of tech. But it's also about how well you communicate with people. How good at are you with connecting with people? And so that definitely helps a lot, even if you're not, let's say, a tech ninja or good at programming. So you can still be a lead. And being a lead doesn't mean that we are like the best at what we do. We're definitely not the best at what we do. It's definitely also a learning process for us. Like us individually, I believe, if I speak for everyone here, that we have learned a lot through this journey. Like we had assumptions about each other or assumptions about ourselves, and we saw like that's not the right thing and how to do things. So it's definitely a journey which teaches you a lot. And I believe it's not just about will help you during now. It will definitely help you in the longer run when you suppose go for work or become a part of a bigger community, because it teaches you a lot of valuable skills in a way. You learn how to time management. You learn how to do public speeches. You learn how to manage communities, how to communicate with your speakers or your audience. And so there's a bunch of skills that you learn through this program. It's not just about tech. It's about way broader than tech in general. Yeah.
That was really good. And we have Ravin. If it works, don't touch it.
Yeah. That's basically the way to go for internships as well, or any company. If it's working, don't touch it, don't break it. Let it run. as it can. Yeah, that's definitely a philosophy, like on the top of the, if you go work somewhere list.
So like currently I'm interning, and then we have this like source code, and then there was this like one line there, like find out what this do, like what does this do, and the comment was back in like 2018. So I was asking my like supervisor, like, has anyone found out what does this do? It's like, nope. Like, but don't touch it.
I mean, yeah, like it's like, a lot, because a lot of people work on the project, some leave, some new people come in, so it's definitely like you learn something, and sometimes you'll be like, what is this, and why is this happening like this? But yeah, you just have to deal with it and be willing to be open to like new ideas and like new perspective.
Like architecture, like implementation does not exist. Like if it works, it works.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. So like if there are no other questions, I guess we can like end tonight's sessions on a good note. Like thank you to Amrita, Alavi, Weifan, Dafi, like for spending time with me, agreeing to doing our live series. So like thank you
Thanks
to
for
everyone who
having
watched.
us, Zhen.
Thank you for having us. It was a great session. It was a great session.
Yeah. So like it was really fun, and then I guess like this is one of probably our few last moments together, working together as DSC leads. So yeah, I hope all of you have a good year. Stay safe. All right.
Thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Right.
All right. Catch you guys. Bye.